This is the 2025 BMW M2, and after spending a full week with this car, I've come to the conclusion that this is the best sports car money can buy, if you don't mind the front end.
You're probably wondering, wait a second, Sam, didn't you say in the last video that you didn't like this car? Technically, I didn't. What I did say is that myself and this car did not click in terms of looks, and that's of course preference, personal preference. You might like it, someone else might not. That's fine, that's okay. It's okay to not like a vehicle, but in terms of the mechanical part and what it offers, in my opinion, this is the best sports car you can buy currently. Whether you want to get it used or new, this is it.
I'm not saying that this is the best car for everyone. Some people may not like the front end or maybe the overall looks of this vehicle, and that's totally fine. But personally, I know people that actually went and purchased the M2 knowing that they didn't really click with that front end design, but somehow they saw the other things that this vehicle offers, things that I did see during that 1 week.
You're probably wondering, what about the M240i they just reviewed recently? Absolutely love it as well. But this one, it's a different animal. It's a different experience compared to the M240i. And having said that, I've driven both for day to day. And when it comes to a daily, I'll take the M240i over this any day of the week. Plus that comes with an X drive. But then you're missing quite a lot of things from the M240i that you get in this one, which is the full M performance. But we don't want to focus on that. We want to focus on this versus what's out there. So let's start first with the Cayman GTS, which the 4.0 right now, it's actually, you can't even get one. And if you do find one used or slightly used, you're paying 120 grand in Canada, maybe 100 grand in the US. So don't even bother. Amazing machine, but you can't even look at that if your budget it's under $90,000. The next thing would be the Toyota Supra, which shockingly new, it's the same price as this for the base model, or even used. You can get one used right now. And talking about used, if you want to look for a used M2, guess what? You can use carsnap. You can take a picture of this car right now, and guess what? All you have to do is upload that picture. It will tell you all the listings, the specs, and all the YouTube reviews currently on YouTube about the M2. So that way, everything you need is right in one app. Download it. It's for free. The next competitor to this would be probably the Nissan Nismo Z, which, let's be honest, it doesn't offer a manual. It costs about 75, 80 grand. Absolute waste of money. I love the vehicle, but I'm not giving you 80 grand for that car. And then we've got the Ford Mustang Dark Horse, which, in my opinion, the Mach 1 is better value than the Dark Horse. Yes, you get a different interior. Yes, you get more sort of tech features on the inside, but you're essentially getting very similar engine, very similar transmission, but then you're going to pay for the Dark Horse about $90,000. Hence why I actually bailed on my order when I looked at the full price after it, and also the interest rate wasn't even worth it. This right here beats all of them. Now, a few arguments that I've heard about this new M2 is that it's bigger, it's not as light, and it's got different profile compared to the F chassis. And I will agree, the front end of this vehicle is the least favorite part of this car. I am not a big fan. I keep looking at it, different colors. I still cannot click with this car when it comes to the front end. And for me, looks is very important into a car because that's what you pay all that money. Some people may not care about it, but there are some parts of this vehicle which I actually prefer more than the F chassis, and that's the rear end. The way this thing is sculpted all together, including this side profile, even the taillights, I actually don't mind them. They fit in almost okay, not perfectly, but okay. Then we've got this extended part giving that muscular design, and then massive quad exhaust system continuing with that traditional design of BMW M2s. And then we have the diffuser, which also sort of similar to the side over here. It's a bit more biffy and more aggressive. The entire area here, quite nice. I like the side over here. The rear end, it's exactly how I'd want a sports vehicle. And then we move on to the side profile. Compared to the F chassis, now this is 4.1 inches longer, and we've got a longer wheelbase. In fact, it's about 2 inches longer in this one compared to the F chassis. And then you've got the height, which is slightly taller right now compared to the outgoing model, 0.2 inches or so, which is not extremely different. I love the flush design for the door handles. I love the extended part over here for the side skirt, giving that beefy look, which matches all the way across. The side profile looks great, and with this package, we've got carbon roof, which saves usually about 200 pounds or so. But the entire design over here, even this area, it's perfect. I kind of enjoy these wheels as well. Not the biggest fan of it, but with this midnight purple style, this color pops. And I think if I had to go back and close my eyes and maybe change the front end, this would be my choice. This color, it's perfect, but it would fit well with some bronze wheels. That's something that I would package this nicely. With this package, we've got the red calipers, big piston in the front. These are 6 in the front, and we've got single in the back, but these are also larger, and they're drilled rotors to give you more performance. Now, this is where I don't really like this vehicle. It's this part over here. This entire grille, it's a complete mismatch with everything else. And also the headlights, not the really nicest one out there. I'd say the F chassis had a better front end, more aggressive than this. Also, not as biffy as this, which I'm okay with that. But this portion over here, not really doing it for me. I keep looking at it and I just can't really like it. But having said that, it does have some nice designs. Like for example, the bottom part, these massive side pockets here, or buckets, whatever you want to call them, for the air to flow through into the intercooler. It's really M-like. That's what they're known for. It kind of reminds me also a bit of the new M5, which has larger inlets in the front for the air to flow through. But this part here, the grille, is where I would 100% change. But then if you change that, you'd have to change the entire bumper. So I think might as well wait for maybe a facelift option of it, which this does have some sort for 2025, some differences, but the outside remains very much the same. But what's important with this car, it's what's under the hood. You see, unlike the original M2, this 2025 model comes with the most beautiful, most powerful M engine ever made, in my opinion, which is the S87. And the original M2 came with the N55, and then they moved into the competition, which came with the S55. But what you're getting in here is performance level to an M4, but M2 money. And that's another argument I want to make against the M4. You'd rather get this, in my opinion, because it does offer similar space on the inside, but you get the same engine. Maybe looks is where you might not really enjoy this as much. You might like the M4, but then the M4 has its own haters, which is the grille, and people still buy it no matter what. But this is where this thing offers the best parts. The engine. This thing in 2024 made 453 brake horsepower, now it makes 473 brake horsepower. Having said that, will you notice the difference? Not really. I've actually heard a couple of guys saying that they've done a test between the two and they're neck and neck. Again, we'll just leave that for the dyno. But at the moment, this is what we know. For 2025, this has an increase in horsepower in terms of paper. But having said that, this doesn't make 473. Let's be honest, it makes about 530 horsepower. Having the 473 is more to do with the wheels. In terms of brake horsepower, I'd say about 530 would be the fair number for this engine. Just driving it, you notice that right away. The original M2, the F87 from 2016 to 2018, offered the N55, which made 370 brake horsepower with a curb weight of 3,450 pounds. It had a power to weight ratio of 9.3 pounds per horsepower. The 2019 and 2021 model M2 competition made 405 brake horsepower, and it had a curb weight of 3,600 pounds with a power to weight ratio of 8.9 pounds per horsepower. M2, the 2025 model, well, this one makes 473 brake horsepower and a curb weight of 3,920 pounds. It's about 300 pounds heavier than the F chassis. But compared to the original model, this has a power to weight ratio of 8.3 pounds per horsepower. So it's actually better compared to the original one. Even though people keep saying that this is actually heavy, it is heavy, but horsepower has gone up by a lot compared to the original M2. And let's not forget the fact that whatever BMW says, this definitely makes more horsepower. So the argument about weight, I think it's kind of like a moot point. It doesn't make any sense because the car makes more horsepower than previously and it's larger, it gives you more space on the inside, sort of. And then you get, well, a beefier and more powerful engine. So what you're getting in here is probably one of the best M2s ever, in my opinion. Jumping onto the interior, for 2025, we've got a new steering wheel. The good news is that they still offer a manual, which, please BMW, don't stop that. I'm not the biggest fan of this, but I'd rather have this than nothing. So let's keep it that way. The seats are very similar. These are the nice ones. They're not the bucket style. They're comfortable for day to day. When it comes to comfort level, we'll talk about when I go for a drive in comparison to the M240i, but the interior is not extremely different to the M240i. It's very similar to that. The steering wheel is different. You've got these M2, M1 buttons at the top, which I'm a big fan of. Easy access to go in different modes. My M1, my daily, day-to-day. My M2 is your track experience. So kind of like tweak them to your needs. Then we've got this screen behind, which is similar to the 2024 model. But what's different is this portion over here for the climate unit. So right now we've got just this air vent underneath, and that's about it. But compared to the M240i, this does offer a manual transmission, which for some people is a deal breaker, if they want to drive manual day to day. I find it pretty brave with traffic, especially if you live in Toronto, but hey, respect. I love the interior of this thing. Compared to the Supra, this is way better compared to the Nissan Z. Way better, slightly more money. The Nismo Z specifically compared to the Ford Mustang, I find is way better. What else? The Porsche Cayenne, it's the Cayman GTS is probably another one that compares to this, but really not caring much about that. So I'd say this is probably the best option you have. Now, another thing that you don't get with the M240 is the drift analyzer. So you can actually drift it, but it's an extra package. So if you look at that, you're probably wondering, do I really need it? Do I care? Maybe not. But I think it's a nice one to have, and it just adds the entire experience of the M division, the M performance badge. But the interior overall of this car feels very premium, sporty at the same time. So you're getting quite a lot of car for the money. Now, how does it drive? I've driven this thing for day to day, and let me tell you, even in comfort modes, it's not as comfortable as the M240i. The suspension system, it's a bit stiffer. Now, it's designed that way because kind of have to compromise ride comfort when you're building a sports car for sort of track use as well and fast. But it's not unbearable. It's a bit forgiving in some cases. The other thing is that the car feels a lot more powerful on the road as compared to the M240i. Like, you can feel that you're always wanting to be an M2. I don't want to be an M1 at all. Manual transmission. Out of all the manual transmissions that I have driven, this thing, in my opinion, is not one of the best. It's kind of like in the middle level. The Tramex on the Mach 1, the Blackwing, though that transmission is superb. In fact, I think even my Focus RS has better transmission than this. The problem I have with this is that it doesn't synchronize the engine as well as with the RPM. Like when you're pushing the car, it feels like the transmission is not well synchronized. Now, the only way to explain this is if you actually drive this, and maybe you're going to agree, but the people that have driven it, that I've spoken to, kind of agree with me. Having said that, I don't want to complain because there's not that many manual cars out there. So BMW, keep making them. I get used to it. The rev matching is pretty good. I turn it off because I like to do my own rev matching. But one thing I want to talk about this car that I think it desperately needs more than Kim Kardashian needing another plastic surgery is the exhaust. The exhaust on this car does not sound good at all. I mean, it sounds good on the inside, but on the outside, it's pretty meh. Like, it doesn't really sound like an M car. It's very muffled. Now, to BMW's defense, the reason is simply because Europeans. See, they sell this car in Europe, therefore they have to comply with the European laws. So they need to make these cars, well, not loud, essentially. And having driven the M5, I kind of understand that, because it just doesn't sound good at all. But that can be fixed. You put a nice exhaust into it and you're good to go. In fact, I think the Nismo Z sounds better than this. It sounds good on the inside, but it feels like a bit of that it's pumped through the speakers, which is normal right now. A lot of performance cars do that. The suspension system in sport mode, it's exactly how you want it to be. It really puts the car in the perfect level, and it's stiff when you need it. And that's what you need around the corner. Now, having driven the Toyota Supra, maybe you're considering that, not even close to this. In fact, someone that I know went from Supra, has been on our channel, to this. I think the only car that I would take over this used would be probably the Mach 1, but even those things are getting rare on the market, because that you probably get one for about 60 grand. I found a used one, 2024 model. It was for $84,000. Now, again, to some people that want to buy the Civic Type R, maybe that's a lot of money, and I agree. But for what you're paying, what you're getting, that's actually pretty reasonable. Mind you, I'll take this over the M4 in some cases if it did look better, because it's so much better value. You're getting essentially the same engine, very much similar suspension setup, probably sounds about the same as well. So why pay more for that? Price-wise, well, in Canada, this starts at about $89,000, 88. By the time you come out of the dealership, you look about 92, which is actually super reasonable. Mind you, you're getting M performance level vehicle, and this is probably the best value you can get if you're looking for an M car, because the M2 has always been the vehicle that you wanted, that you don't want to spend a lot of money. It was sort of the entry level, but at the first model, you weren't getting the full M. Now you're getting the same engine as in every other M2 and every other M3, M4 vehicle, even the X3M, which is sort of discontinued now. And the S58 has proven itself to be absolute beast.